He saved me, Mom.
The transport ship Orion Drift cut silently through the violet clouds of planet Illithara, its engines glowing like dying stars against the endless. Commander Elias Vane stood near the cockpit window, arms folded tightly across his chest. Beneath him stretched the shining capital of the alien empire, a city built from silver towers, floating bridges, and rivers of blue light that moved like electricity across the surface. But Elias wasn't admiring the view. He was trying to ignore the fact that he was about to meet the most powerful being in 3 galaxies. The Sovereign, and if the stories were true, one wrong word could get him executed before sunrise. Behind him, soft footsteps echoed through the cabin. Still nervous, Elias turned and saw Princess Liari smiling at him. She no longer looked like the frightened child he had rescued months ago on the mining moon of Korvax 9. Back then, she had been weak, injured, and hunted by mercenaries. Now she stood proudly in royal armor woven with glowing silver threads, her luminous violet eyes calm and warm. But despite the regal appearance, she still carried that same kindness. "You told me your mother rules half the galaxy," Elias muttered. "I think nervous is reasonable." Liari laughed softly. "She's not as terrifying as people believe." "That's exactly what terrifying people say." The princess stepped closer. "She wants to thank you." Elias looked away. Leaders like her don't thank humans. For a brief second, Liari's smile faded. "You saved my life when even my own guards abandoned me. My mother never forgets debts." Before Elias could respond, the ship suddenly slowed. A deep mechanical voice echoed through the cabin. "Arrival confirmed. Welcome to the Celestial Palace." The enormous palace appeared ahead of them, floating above the capital itself. Elias had seen massive structures before during his years as a smuggler and former military pilot, but nothing compared to this. The palace looked alive. Its walls shifted like liquid crystal, glowing with ancient alien symbols. Giant rings rotated around its upper towers, generating fields of energy that illuminated the skies. As the landing ramp lowered, Elias immediately noticed something else. Hundreds of royal guards, every weapon was pointed directly at him. "Well," he whispered, "that feels welcoming." Liari ignored the tension and walked down the ramp confidently. Elias followed carefully. The guards were nearly 7 feet tall, armored in black metallic suits with glowing blue visors. None of them blinked. None moved. At the end of the massive hall stood a throne carved from shimmering white stone. And seated upon it was the sovereign. Elias froze. Queen Seraphina looked almost unreal. Her silver-white hair flowed like liquid light over her shoulders. Her eyes glowed gold with unnatural intensity, and the air around her shimmered with invisible power. She wore no crown because she didn't need one. Everything about her radiated authority. Fear spread through Elias's chest instinctively. This wasn't simply a ruler. This was a being powerful enough to command entire worlds. The enormous hall fell silent as Liari approached the throne. Then the princess smiled brightly. "He saved me, Mom." The words echoed gently across the chamber. Every guard immediately lowered their weapons. Elias blinked in confusion. The queen slowly stood from her throne and descended the glowing steps. Each footstep echoed like thunder. When she finally stood before Elias, he realized she was taller than him by several inches. Her golden eyes studied him carefully. "You are the human," she said calmly. Elias cleared his throat. "I guess I am," the queen circled him slowly. "My daughter says you fought 12 mercenaries alone. They weren't very organized. She says you carried her across frozen wastelands while injured." Elias shrugged awkwardly. "She couldn't walk, and she claims," the sovereign continued, "that you refused payment. That part's true." The queen stopped moving. Now the entire chamber was watching. "Why?" Elias frowned slightly. "What do you mean why? Humans are known for greed, survival, self-interest. Yet you risked your life for someone you did not know." Elias hesitated. The memory returned instantly. A terrified little alien girl hiding beneath collapsed metal while explosions lit the skies above. Kovacs 9. She had looked so small, so alone. She was scared, he answered quietly. That was enough. For the first time, the Sovereign's expression softened. Just slightly. But before another word could be spoken, a loud alarm suddenly erupted across the palace. Red lights flashed violently. One of the guards rushed forward. Sovereign! Unauthorized fleet entering orbit. The Queen turned sharply. How many? 27 warships. The room immediately exploded into chaos. Holographic battle maps appeared throughout the chamber. Officers shouted commands while guards activated weapons. Elias stepped closer to one of the projections. His face darkened instantly. No, he whispered. Liari looked at him. You recognize them? Elias nodded slowly. The Black Nebula Syndicate. The Queen turned toward him. You know this fleet? I used to work for them. Silence. Every guard immediately aimed weapons at Elias again. Liari stepped between them instantly. No. The Queen raised a hand, stopping her soldiers. Elias sighed heavily. I left years ago, he explained. They raid colonies, sell weapons, destroy planets for profit. If they're here, he looked toward the battle projection. They came for Liari. The Sovereign's golden eyes narrowed. The assassination attempt on Kovacs 9. Elias nodded. They failed once. Now they're finishing the job. Outside the palace windows, the skies suddenly lit up. The invasion had begun. Massive enemy warships emerged through clouds while explosions erupted across the outer defense stations. The palace trembled violently. One of the officers shouted in panic. They've breached the western shield line. Another explosion shook the chamber. Elias immediately studied the holographic map again. Then his eyes widened. They're not attacking randomly, he said quickly. The Queen stepped closer. What do you see? Elias pointed towards several flashing symbols. That formation. They're heading for the core reactors beneath the city. If those explode, your capital dies. The officers looked horrified. How would you know this? One demanded. Because I helped design that strategy. Another silence filled the chamber. The Queen stared at Elias carefully. Then she asked the question everyone feared. Can you stop them? Elias looked toward the burning skies outside. He knew what the Syndicate was capable of. He also knew they would kill him immediately if they recognized him. But then he glanced at Liari, the same child he had once carried through snowstorms while enemy hunters chased them across an abandoned moon. She trusted him completely. Elias exhaled slowly. Yeah, he said. But I'll need a ship. Minutes later, alarms echoed throughout the launch bay as royal fighters prepared for battle. Technicians rushed across platforms. While explosions rumbled overhead, Elias climbed into the cockpit of an advanced Illithian interceptor. The controls glowed blue beneath his fingers. Liari appeared beside the ship. You're really doing this? Elias smirked slightly. I always make terrible decisions. Her expression softened. You could still leave. Nah, he answered. Somebody has to save the galaxy from bad people. The princess suddenly hugged him tightly. Elias froze in surprise, then she whispered softly, "Come back alive." Moments later, the interceptor launched into the war-torn skies. The battle above Illithara was absolute chaos. Alien cruisers fired beams of energy across space, while enemy fighters swarmed like insects through burning debris. Elias maneuvered through explosions effortlessly. Old instincts returned immediately. He targeted the lead Syndicate destroyer and opened a private transmission. A scarred face appeared on the screen. Captain Drevik, the man Elias once served under. Well, Drevik growled. The ghost returns. You picked the wrong planet. Elias replied coldly. Drevik laughed. You always were sentimental. Then the enemy fleet accelerated toward the reactor sector. Elias cursed under his breath. He pushed the interceptor beyond safety limits, weaving between enemy ships while alarms screamed inside the cockpit. Missiles chased him through collapsing debris fields. One hit nearly tore off his wing, but Elias kept flying, Finally, he reached the central destroyer. Without hesitation, he redirected all remaining power into the ship's forward cannons. Here goes nothing. A massive blast erupted from the interceptor. The destroyer's reactor exploded instantly. A chain reaction followed. One by one, enemy ships ignited across orbit. Fire consumed the sky. The remaining Syndicate vessels retreated immediately. The battle was over. Hours later, Elias stood once again inside the royal chamber. This time, no weapons were aimed at him. The sovereign descended from her throne slowly. "The capital survives because of you," she said. Ilias rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Team effort." The queen looked toward the gathered officers. "Leave us." The chamber emptied instantly. Only Elias, Liari, and the sovereign remained. Then, to Elias's complete shock, ruler of the Illitharan Empire bowed her head. Every instinct in his body screamed that this should not be happening. "You protected my daughter," the queen said quietly. "Then you protected my people." Ilias stared speechlessly. The sovereign looked directly into his eyes. "From this day forward, you are no longer considered an outsider on Elithara." Liari smiled brightly. Her mother continued, "You are family, for the first time in many years." Elias Vane finally felt like he belonged somewhere.